The Missing Witches fundraiser for Native women's shelters is now complete. Together, our coven returned over $4,000 to our local Indigenous communities. If you love the Missing Witches project, consider joining us on Patreon at patreon.com/missingwitches.
You aren't being a proper woman, therefore you must be a witch. 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 You must be a witch.
Hello and welcome to the Missing Witches Coven. It's always a party here. Today, our honored party guest is an author, a business owner, and the head witch in charge, HWIC, Erica Feldmann. Hi, Erica.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. The last time we spoke, we were on Instagram Live and we were talking about books, and Paige, the junk witch, turned me on to I Tituba, which became my favorite book of the year.
It's so incredible. When was that?
I don't know. I think everybody...
was that 2020? Was that 2021? Was that this year? I don't even know.
Listeners,
but I had a great time.
If you have any sense of time for the last 2 years, please email us at gmail.com, because I want to know how you're keeping track of time. I literally have no idea.
Please put some brain cells in a little jar with a cork top and mail them to us.
Send them off to us. I mean, you and I were talking about how literally everyone we know is in some kind of crisis right now. So we are being super cutting each other lots of slack, not being too worried if we don't remember what year it is, cutting ourselves the same slack that we're trying to cut everybody else. But for our listeners who maybe don't know who you are, who missed that Instagram Live, who have been missing out on all of the publicity for our fundraiser, which Erica is a part, tell our listeners who you are.
Okay, well, my name is Erica Feldmann, and I am the head witch in charge of House Witch Home and Healing in Salem, Massachusetts. I guess just a little bit about me personally. I grew up in the Midwest, working class, which definitely has informed my point of view and my, locational identity, especially moving out to the East Coast for graduate school, which is definitely sort of an elite sort of thing. And so I think, so I moved out to Salem. I fell in love with it. I studied witches in grad school at Simmons. I got a master's degree in gender and cultural studies, and my research concentration was witches. I have been a witch all my life, as far back as I can remember. I am lucky that I did have a family where we weren't so much performing magic or casting spells, but it was sort of like my grandfather was a really incredible person and manifester, and so he would always say, I'm a witch. So we just always kind of had this understanding of oh well, Grandpa John's a witch, and we're all witches on this side of the family. It wasn't a taboo thing at all. It was completely normal. Meanwhile, my dad was a practicing Christian and went to church every Sunday, and so anyways, so finally, when I was finishing up my undergrad in history, I took a class at Cambridge University in England called Witchcraft in Early Modern England, and realized that, witches, aside from being rock stars to me, literally the top coolest thing you could ever be in your life, for me, was a witch. And so I realized that through studying witches in a historical context, that it really married all of my interests in this really satisfying way, which is history and feminism and the occult. And I think what I found most interesting in grad school, and still kind of do, is this the opportunity of witchcraft to be sort of a language of marginalized folks. A language and a technology that is outside of the, normative hegemonic culture, and how powerful that is for people who are othered, either by, the powers that be, or, who make a choice to be othered, as much as it can be things like that can be a choice, I suppose. And so it was really interesting looking at those things in graduate school from like a post-structuralist theory perspective or media studies perspective, because those kind of paradigms are looking into, these kind of like alternate languages or alternate ways of being in the world, which I think, the study of witches and witchcraft lends itself beautifully to that. And then after grad school, I took a few years to kind of all come together, but eventually House Witch as a concept was kind of downloaded from Spirit, and it had a few different iterations before I opened the shop in 2015. And now we have the shop and the online shop, and I have my book House Magic, and we have a line of ritual cleaning products called Counter Magic. And that's where we are today. That was maybe like the quickest bio I've ever done. I hope it was okay.
Yeah, it was.
You're like, I just wanted you to say your name, but also, but I'm a Gemini. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a Gemini Sun and Mercury. So I'm going to talk a lot, but Scorpio rising and Pisces moon. So, which I think is like a pretty witchy top 3, but anyway.
We always say, please expand. Please expand. People,
you won't have to say that.
No need to apologize for a long story.
For the first time, I had to say, please contract.
Too many details. Okay. No, always more details. And I have like about 1 million follow-up questions for your introduction. Perfect. But first, in my excitement, I was hoping that you would do us the honor of helping me calm down my excitement by giving us your grounding meditation from your book, House Magic. And then hopefully
I think it's the medicine of the moment for me too. So, perfect.
And that'll help me like get all of my like super crazy teehees out of the way. And then we can continue with my 1 million questions for you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Perfect. So when I first really started practicing witchcraft as an adult, which was after I moved to Salem, and I, was struggling in some ways. And I don't remember exactly how psychic meditation came into my life. I have a person that I'm like extremely close with who is a clairvoyant. So I'm sure it was sort of through a suggestion of his. And then I found like an incredible book. And I started doing a version of this grounding meditation on my way to work in the morning on the subway, on the way to an incredibly toxic job that, I really needed to be able to be centered and just really be the best version of myself so that I wasn't kind of like getting into this like toxic energy. And I think what's amazing about a grounding meditation is that you can do it on the subway on the way to work. And it is such powerful magic. I think some people really think they need to, carve out a lot of time or be in a very specific context to be doing ritual. And of course, some rituals call for that. Of course, you want to always bring intention into any practice that you're doing. But at the same time, if you are really like spiraling on the bus because you're about to go somewhere you don't want to go, you can 100% close your eyes for 30 seconds and ground, and you will be in a much better place to face whatever it is you're about to face. So I definitely knew I had to have a grounding meditation in the book. And so this is how it all shook out. So I'm going to read this. So everybody just kind of like get comfortable, maybe just take one nice deep breath, just settle into wherever you are in the space. I'll just read straight from the book so I don't have to improvise and we can just all stay in flow together. So a grounding meditation is a great introduction to working with psychic space and is a crucial exercise for feeling safe and supported. It is very simple to do, yet I think you'll be amazed at how effective it can be at helping you feel centered and balanced in all areas of your life. Grounding works by creating a connection between our physical body and the center of the earth. So sit in a chair with your back straight and your feet flat on the ground and your hands on your thighs face down. And then just close your eyes and breathe deeply but calmly. Now I want you to imagine a beautiful green glowing sphere of light spinning at the base of your spine. And just take a few smooth, deep breaths to connect with it. Now picture that ball of light dropping through your body, through the chair, down through the ground, all the way to the Earth's core. As it drops, imagine it's leaving a green cord behind it, connecting you to the center of the planet. Feel the connection between the base of your spine and the Earth. You can begin to imagine the nourishing energy of the Earth running back up your grounding cord, securing the connection. Feel free to bring that energy all the way up into your solar plexus, from where it can flow freely throughout your body. Send any negative, anxious, or unwanted energy down your grounding cord, where the core of the Earth can recycle it into positive energy. And you can really sit here in this place for as long as you want. You can just, think of really anything that's made you feel anxious or any negative energy from whenever, today, last week, 2020, whatever. If you feel like you're still carrying it, send it down that cord. And then when you're ready, open your eyes, stand up and stretch. And come back to the room a different person, slightly. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. It's definitely always such a good reminder, if you're feeling a little scattered, that you can really just hook that little cord to the center of the Earth. And, once you've done it, really even just a few times, you sort of get the imprint of that feeling, and you truly can connect with it, anywhere. And just help you feel a little bit more solid and a little bit more, grounded, right?
I love this idea of going beyond the ground to ground ourselves and digging to the core of the very Earth. How much more grounded can you possibly be than the center of the Earth?
Truly, because it's I don't know, for me, I'm such a literal person that I'm okay, if it was not the core, then who knows, there could be an earthquake that would shift my grounding cord, or, some horrible construction, bulldozer or something comes along. It's got to be all the way in that core, and there's so much energy in the core of the Earth. And, something I really love is that, you can give, kind of your worries to the center of the Earth, and it can recycle it into positive energy. So it's not you're just dumping your problems on Mother Earth, she can do something with them. So
yeah, turn them into hot magma and use them to fuel our existence even.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned that you use this grounding as a way to ground yourself before entering a toxic workspace.
Yeah.
Can you maybe tell some of our listeners a little bit about how this magic and other magics can help them to sort of survive in these environments?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so much the foundation of so many magical practices really has to just come from you being a centered person with an awareness of your own energy. And and I say an awareness, and in some ways it's a control, but I don't really like that word, control. But although I will say I have used the acronym WITCH, woman in total control of herself, for a long time. And I do think there's, it's obviously a little cheeky, but it's like getting pulled into, think about like something really like frenetic. Like, I don't know why this is like really dumb, but like, when like they're pulling lottery numbers, which I never watched the lottery, I have no idea, but this is just Spirit is sending me like this visual. So, like in a thing where it's like the balls are all like flying around in the little lottery thing and she's like picking them out. Well, I think of like energy like that, right? So like at the time, like I was working in a hair salon. That's what I like did while I was in college and grad school. And in hair salons, there's like a lot of really big personalities and it's a really like emotionally charged environment. And, sometimes that leads to real chaos and real toxicity. And again, not just in hair salons, but in a lot of places. And so if you picture those like lottery balls kind of flying around in this thing, and then you go into it, it's so easy then to get picked up and you become one of these balls swirling around, flying around. And then you're reacting, you're not operating from your core. You're not operating from your authentic like energy. You're operating in reaction to all these other things around you. And not only does that like not feel great, if you're matching energy with people that you don't want to match energy with, like that doesn't feel good. And there can be a lot of lasting effects of having to be in that over and over again. Any child of, who's had a traumatic upbringing, myself included, can tell you that, that the effects of that reverberate. All of these years of matching energy with chaos or, toxicity, eventually that becomes part of your energy. And so energetic hygiene is really important, and grounding and centering yourself is kind of like, I think, step one in spiritual hygiene and in taking care of, your own energy so that you can be operating from exactly the place that you want to be operating out of. And that's called power. To me, that is empowerment. So, that no matter how these balls are flying all over the place, you know who you're walking in as and you know who you're walking out as. And if you know those two things, then I think, you're going to be in the place that you want to be in rather than where other people can take you. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. And you just got me thinking about how like we're forced to react to whatever is the culture in our workspace. And often workplaces are entirely homogenous by rule. You have to wear this, you have to, behave this way, you have to do this in this certain, this is how we do it. This is how we've always done it. And so as now a business, you're a boss, a witch boss now. So how do you bring that from the top down to your work environment?
I have to tell you, I really put like my mental health and like like staying centered and staying grounded. It's a huge priority for me because I never want anybody coming to work here feeling like it's a toxic environment. And being a business owner, like I'm not perfect and I'm not anybody's mom. And there's a lot of different, there's just a lot of different factors. And I just feel that it's really important that I show up for my staff in a way where they feel safe and they don't ever feel like, I don't ever want to act in a way where they feel anxious or or misunderstood, or like there's a lack of consistency, just kind of all of these things that I think parents kind of try to, create that kind of environment for their children. And I don't think of my staff as my children. I don't, we don't have a lot of like family, kind of stuff, because even though I definitely have love for them and I hope they have love for me too, there's just, it's a question of boundaries, really, right? And I and so many people I know did not actually really grow up knowing what healthy boundaries look like. And so, and even myself, I know that when I first started running this business and was first managing staff of my own as opposed to managing other people's businesses, I had to do a lot of work around figuring out what kind of like appropriate boundaries look like, while also trying to run a business that prioritizes empathy and prioritizes compassion. And it's a fine line, you know, and I think I probably don't always walk it very well. But at the end of the day, even just the consideration of like, okay, I'm in this role of authority, which again, it's not like I'm like a hard ass on anybody, right? But you just implicitly, I hold power. I'm an authority figure as being like the one that signs the paychecks. But someone that, you know, maybe these folks are, you know, look up to, or, you know, just see as kind of an elder. I think I'm like 11 years older than my next youngest, or like the oldest person on my staff.
You're not exactly a crone yourself, so you must have quite a young staff.
I know they're like the youngest millennials, and then like Zoomers, and I mean, they are young people are so cool. I sound like a total old person like saying that, but
okay, boomer.
I think we all know, like, no, I mean, for real, that's honestly like, yeah. But you know, I really love my staff, and I look up to them in so many ways. And so I just always want to make sure that I'm showing up for them and not putting them in a place where they, have to do like grounding meditations on the way to work to deal with my toxic energy, you know. But I just know, from working for small businesses for a long time, you know, when it is one person in charge, like there's not an HR, you know, like wing of this business, you know, and there really aren't for a lot of small businesses. And so a lot of times you're at the whim of like one person, and being that one person, there's a lot of pressure, and there's a lot for me anyways. And I just take really seriously my role in setting that tone, and, you know, knowing that because we don't have like an HR department or whatever, there is no one really aside from me to address issues. And so everybody has to feel comfortable enough coming to me with whatever it is. And it's a lot of work, but that's the work for me, because everything else feels like just the best time I've ever had. I mean, we just all have so much fun, and it's like all we do all day is just try to figure out how to like teach people to do witchcraft and like empower themselves and you know, be anti-racist and anti-capitalist, and it's like stuff that I just like would do in my free time on my own, you know. And so that's not really, doesn't feel like work to me, you know. But what feels like work is this, you know, really just trying to make sure that I'm my best self, because I'm the leader, and I never really saw myself in a leadership position in my life. But once I got here, you know, I realized that I really wanted to take it seriously after having so many bad bosses. You know, it's one of these things, right, where I've had way more instruction in how to not be a boss, honestly, than how to be a good boss. And so that's why I think it's just kind of a lot of work for me, because I haven't really had the best examples, if that makes sense, you know?
I mean, I definitely think that we can learn as much from bad role models as we can from good role models, but the experience of learning, of course, is quite
different. Yeah.
You brought up something that we talk about around these parts all the time, is this notion. White Feather Hunter put it the most succinctly, so we give her the credit for this quote, is that
great
witchcraft is inherently anti-capitalist. And we believe that, but at the same time, as we say to our patrons who are so generous in making their ritual sacrifice monthly to help fund this project, we live in the world, you know, like we're all looking forward to this beautiful utopia where we can just make sure everybody's needs are met with, you know, common communal farming, and where everybody's treated beautifully and perfectly. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. So we have to balance our need to be anti-capitalist in philosophy and in practice with our need to eat food and keep a roof over our heads. So I wanted to come to you specifically, to talk about this, because you seem to be really nailing this balance between running a successful, quote unquote, profitable business that is growing. And, you know, your work has expanded into a book. I know you started your business as like a little thing that you were just kind of doing, and, you know, growth. How do we deal with unchecked growth, this desire for unchecked growth when we're running our own business? Can we be satisfied with like a plateau? Anyway, I just really would love to mute my microphone and just like have you go off on this subject.
I mean, I could talk about this for 1,000 hours, and I feel like I do talk about this with like my staff and other people that, you know, we work with like pretty much constantly, because just like anything else, I think anti-capitalism is a practice as well. I mean, like none of us, like truly, unless you have the ability to just say like, I am going off the grid in my like electric vehicle and will rely on no one and no structures and no organizations and like nothing. I mean, you have to participate in capitalism, you know? And so, you know, and I think it's important to just kind of make the distinction right away that, you know, there is a difference between like mercantile capitalism, which is like, I'm going to buy, you know, a bag of wheat with 6 seashells and, you know, whatever, like what people did for thousands of years, and like what we're doing now, which is like late stage hypercapitalism, which really started in, you know, earnestly in the late 1700s, early 1800s with, you know, the Industrial Revolution in Britain. I mean, I studied Russian and Soviet history in college. And so I actually read a lot of, you know, kind of Marx and Lenin. And so I was like 19 going to like, you know, the Socialist Convention at University of Illinois. And, you know, and what I'll say about that though is that like the problem there is like, there's a lot of gatekeeping kind of stuff when you get into these really like hardcore, like socialist organizations. And so that honestly like wasn't really my home either, but I'm really grateful that I got that perspective so early on. One of my best friends is like, you have been working late stage capitalism into like every conversation for like 20 years at this point. And I'm proud of that. But
I'm proud of you for that.
But I think what it is really for us and for me, and again, it's like a practice. You have to kind of hack capitalism, I think, is what it is, right? And so, for example, for the most part, the vendors that we work with are all small or micro businesses that are, you know, for the most part owned by, you know, women identified folks, queer folks, people of color, witches, certainly. So how is it, you know, nefarious or sinister if to be engaging in this kind of trade where the people the people that are being supported are like exactly the people that I would want to support. You know, it's not these big corporations. I'm not stalking anything that comes from, you know, like unfair labor practices or, you know, just a lot of the just unsustainable practices and corporate, you know, again, like hyper profit, motivated businesses. It's like, you know, my friend Cass, like in her workshop in Providence, just making bath bombs. You know what I mean? And what's awesome about House Witch is that is what House Witch is made up of, and almost entirely. You know, I think the only thing at this point that we really carry that's like mass produced are the books that we get from corporate publishers. And, you know, even in 2020, that was one of the things I did when we were kind of pivoting for the pandemic, was like, all right, well, these publishers don't need our money right now, you know, but, you know, Brandon of Hills and Holler down in Austin, who I know is like one person that like screen prints things in their home or whatever, like does need our money right now. And so I think it's just being really thoughtful about where you are doing business and who you're doing it with and what that exchange is like. Is it fair? You know, it's like, as a retailer, I might be able to take something that someone makes for a certain price and mark it up way more than what they would, and I could probably still sell it. But that's not fair. Like, that's not how it works. Like, that's why we're in the situation that we're in, is that, you know, it's just greed, right? So as long as you're like kind of just always questioning yourself, like, am I making this decision from a place of like greed or from a place of like, I want to make money. I love making money. I love that my business has grown as much as it has. I love that it is profitable. I'm super, super proud of that. And I don't feel any type of way. I don't feel any conflict around that at all, because I know that all of the money that flows through this business and around this business is, like I said, truly supporting like the best people who I know also have like really ethical business practices and, you know, sustainability in mind and fair labor. I mean, that's a huge thing, right? And I think it's really, even for me, like over the last couple of years with this, like I've had a huge wake up. I mean, I've always wanted to pay people as much as I possibly could, but really having this wake up around like, it doesn't matter what everybody else is paying for the same position. If people can't pay their bills, like, why would people come to work if they can't pay their bills? And I think there's just so many things that we take for granted. Well, if it's retail, it should be, you know, $15, $16 an hour. You're working in retail. It's just a job a kid gets. We're not living in that world anymore. I don't hire high school kids. I hire people who have, you know, degrees or have done advanced studies on their own. And, you know, they're in their 20s and they have to pay rent, you know? And if they can't pay their rent based on what I'm paying them, like, why would they like me at all? And why would they want to come to work? And why, you know what I mean? But yet there is this like vibe. And I think we've seen this just come crashing down over the last couple of years. And I love it. This vibe of like, well, why would I pay $5 more than I was paying before the pandemic? And it's like, well, because you can't find anybody to work for you for that $5 less anymore, because people are like, I'm not doing this. And there's still so much resistance around just like paying people more. And I'm here to say, like, as a business owner, like, just like pay people more. Like, it's not even that much of an expense, and it will literally like transform your workforce, because, you know, all of a sudden it's like, they don't feel like you're just getting them for the like cheapest possible amount that they can get you to do that labor. You're like saying to people, and people who, like I said, retail is in such an interesting place right now, because I think traditionally it's seen as like this place where young people, unskilled people work. And so you just don't have to pay them very much, right? It's like customer service, and it's just kind of like, you know, whoever you get, and, you know, it's X amount, and, you know, and I think that's really shifting in a really wonderful way. And again, I'm shifting along with it. I'm not trying to be out here saying I'm like way ahead of the curve, but it's like when you really look at it and you're like, all right, if I just paid that person like $2 more, I know what a difference it would make in their life. What difference does it make on my bottom line? I promise you, business owners, it's like, you wouldn't notice it. And it's really just about putting, I think, for people who, I was a worker bee for, you know, 20 years, I worked for other people. And I think once you flip yourself into the other, you know, position where now you're, you know, the boss or the employer, there's so much unlearning to do. And what I would find is I would get so like frustrated and like, just kind of like upset when I would put myself in the position, like kind of in the energy of like bosses that I had before, like small business owners. And I just like found myself, I'd get like really frustrated. Like I had given myself all this permission to like get really frustrated about things, because that's what I had seen, you know, like so put upon to be a business owner, just so like, oh, well, you'll never understand all of my responsibilities and how I have to consider all of these things. And, you know, and I would just, and then I like realized like, what if I just wasn't like that? Like, what if I just literally was like, this is my dream job. I could have never even imagined that this is a reality that I could have. And that, yeah, there are responsibility. Of course, there's a ton of responsibility that comes along with being a business owner, but I don't have to take on this, like, this just resistant, frustrated, like I have all this permission to just take up this space in this kind of like negative way, just because I'm the boss, just because this is my space. I had to unlearn that. And it sounds like, again, from like a witchcraft perspective, it sounds like, well, duh, you don't want to like be a jerk in your own space. And like, but like I said, I mean, I think there's this like vibe of like, all right, I finally made it. I'm the boss. I can be a jerk now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways. And so even I had to like push back against that and just be like, or not, or you just be thrilled to show up here every day because you are, and that's not to deny that, again, it's not always like super fun. And like, I definitely have, responsibilities that I wish I didn't, but it's just, I don't know. All I can say is like unlearn, just like wake up every day and like try to find a new thing to unlearn, because I think more than even like learning witchcraft practices or like learning spells or like learning associations of, zodiac with crystals and with tarot, and all of those things are important and will probably come to you pretty easily and naturally if you're just interested in those things. The real work is the unlearning, because we just have so many bad ideas steeped into us. And you can tell by the way the whole world is falling apart. And I think that's okay, because the way that we've got it should fall apart.
That needs to fall apart.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yes.
anyways, I've just found all of these little ways that were just like not super like, I wasn't super conscious of, but that I just was like, oh, this is how I understand what it is to be in business. And it doesn't have to be like that at all. And so we work from that place a lot. There's a business called Sister, who they had a feminist business school that I went through right after I opened the shop, probably like a year and a half later. My friend Rachel Howe from Small Spells, who is an incredible artist and tarot reader and astrologer, handed me a card from Sister that was the 12 principles for prototyping a feminist business. And I'm looking at it right now because I have it posted up on my window in my office, because I don't know if I would have been able to do the like complete reorientation that I needed to do around business had I not seen this, because I think when she came to me with this, it had been like a year or so. And so the store had resonated and people were loving it. And I was getting tons of really good feedback about it. But I didn't really know how to be a business owner, and I didn't really know how to be a boss, especially because I don't resonate with most tenets of like capitalist business practices and specifically like patriarchal business practices. And so I just think the work that they did in terms of kind of working out this difference between, a patriarchal economy and like what a more feminist economy looks like, and, ways that you can bring in feminism to the way that you run your business. For me, one of the most important ones is about bringing empathy into your business, divorcing from the idea of like the meritocracy. I think for me personally was very, very important. It's, the myth of the meritocracy, the myth that like some people deserve things that, it's just, you really need a complete kind of paradigm shift, I feel like, if you want to be in business and not just really like follow the rules. And I think growth, you brought up growth. And I just want to say, like, I think that is such an interesting topic, because like people ask me all the time, like, when are you going to open another location? Like, what is going to be next? Da, 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 da. And I'm like, I'm so chill, just like living my life with my like nice, manageable business. Like, I truly do not understand the impulse. Of course, like, do I have dreams of a house witch in every city? Yes, of course. Am I going to like destroy myself and have like no comfort and like no standard of living to like get there? No.
Or even just destroy the ethos of House Witch as it is to get there. Right?
We are chilling. You know what I mean? Like, we do not dream of labor at House Witch, like we are like, we want to like hang out with our friends who come in. And when I say friends who come in, I mean everybody, because, we always say like, how many friends do we meet today? And hang with our friends and like make enough money to pay our bills and support really cool people and artists. We're not trying to take over the world. That sounds stressful to me. And The most important reason, though, is really that, like, right now, and this was so important, during the pandemic. I'm the queen of the castle. Like, I get to call all the shots. And if I want to close my shop down for 3 months because COVID is raging and I don't want to, put my staff through that, I got to do that. We did that several times when COVID was, when the outbreaks were really bad, because this is a tourist town. And so even though, like, we're in a place where a lot of people were on board with masks and vaccines and all that kind of stuff, like, being in a tourist town, we get a lot of visitors who, like, maybe aren't from those places. And I just fully closed the shop and we just ramped online because I just wasn't going to do it. And I just know that, from a lot of other people being like, oh, I wish we could have done that. I wish my boss would have done that. Like, man, yeah, I wish I had, like, the online store so that I could, do those things. If I wanted to grow, I would have to take on investors. And see, that is where capitalism goes crazy, is like, as soon as you have to answer to other people about why you're not making more money or, like, how you're going to make more money, then it becomes about making money, not about, I want my staff to pay their bills and be able to, like, go out to a nice dinner. I see them every day. I can say, like, hey, what's going on? Are you all right? Is there anything I can do to... Once it's about making money, you're working for your board of directors, or your investors, or both, or whatever. No thanks. No thanks.
Yeah.
I am totally good to bootstrap, which is, also kind of like a misnomer, but, to just grow this organically, how it wants to grow. And again, in a way where it really serves me and my coworkers rather than the other way around.
Yeah. I have this little, like, visual in my head of, like, a cartoon greed monster coming up to you, like, are you sure you don't want to do this and that? And you saying to them, I am unlearning you. That's something that I think we can all take. Unlearn the greed monster, because you use the word steeped. We are steeped. We are tea bags steeping in the boiling water of capitalism. And it seems like there's no way out, but you are an example of just, like, life's not fair, but people should try to be. And that's how you're doing your business.
I'm trying. I mean, it doesn't, just doing things like business as usual just is so boring to me. And I just couldn't do it. It's so much more interesting to, have it be this practice of, like, how anti-capitalists can, a gift shop be. I don't know.
Let's find out together, right?
we are finding out together, we are doing it. And, it's like also using our platform. We work with a mutual aid group here in Salem called Solidarity North Shore, and we help them get donations for their free store. And obviously we just donate a portion of our sales to them frequently and stuff like that. And I think it's just really, like, thinking about profit in a way where, like, great if you are making a profit, but then what can you do with it other than, like, put it in your pocket? Because that's what it is just that business owners really, like, feel entitled to build a business with as cheap of labor as they can possibly find, and then pocket the rest of the money. And I'm not saying that this is, like, everybody, and I'm not saying that even makes you a bad person. That's just what we're taught. That is what we are steeped in, that you are supposed to do. Like, you are a smart business owner if you pay people less is, like, the vibe. And you're like, wait, what? And then you, like, have a business where, like, your coworkers are your friends, and you're like, well, I don't want to not pay. Like, what am I going to show up in, like, fancy new clothes all the time and they, like, can barely survive? Like, that's not who I am. That's, like, not what I that's not capable. I'm not capable of, like, operating like that. So, I just think that's what we're taught that it's all about. And I'll never forget, like, I sit on this is like a sidebar, but it feels important to mention. I sit on a committee here in town with a bunch of other business owners and, like, the head of the Chamber of Commerce and just, some other kind of, like, community-based initiatives. And, I think it was, like, late last year, early this year, we have a real like labor shortage, hiring shortage around town. And, so they were kind of like asking people for ideas. And, I'm the only openly anti-capitalist person on this committee, you can imagine, and I said, well, you just have to pay people more. I mean, that's literally it. I mean, you just literally, there was like an initiative where people were going to go around and like ask small business owners, like, what are your pain points here? And like, how can we help you? And I'm like, your people just need to go around town and like tell everybody to just pay people more. And that's just it, and we got to the head of the biggest bank here in town, who's a guy named Jason, who's great. And, he said, look, this might be weird, but I completely agree with the anti-capitalist, anti-white supremacist socialist witch on the committee. I see everyone's balance statements. I see everyone's profit and loss statements. And so many business owners just waste money that they could be using to pay their staff more. And it's just this culture of exploitation is just so ingrained in us, that it's like when you start to untie that and think about just like, well, yeah, why does anybody work? Well, so that they can put a roof over their head. So if they can't put a roof over their head, why would I expect them to work for me? But a lot of people do, is what I'm here to say. And a lot more people did before, a lot of these sort of like upheavals that have come over the last couple of years, where, now I do see that the median kind of hourly wage, at least in Salem, has gone up quite a bit. And I'm happy, and I to keep up with that. And I'm happy to, because like, and I don't have to tell you this, but it's just like, that's community. I mean, that is anti-capitalism, right? I mean, just being like, I'm going to take care of my people. It's a really simple idea, and it really like comes down to that. But like I said, I think a lot of people have to do a lot of unlearning to just be able to see that.
Yeah, we have to get out of the teapot, that we've been steeped in. Okay, so we've left the workplace and we've gone home, and yet we still feel steeping. How do we turn our homes into not tea kettles? The bad kind. We love a tea kettle around here, but
I have my tea and my life is relentless. My best friend is a Cancer, and she sent me this
because life is relentless. We've sort of lost the opportunity to just go and like, well, I'm going to go and live in the woods and live off the land. Like it's illegal to do that. So we're forced into the kettle. So how do we make our homes places that are steep free?
Well, of course it's not really an easy answer, but the easy answer is intention. And unfortunately for some people, that's not an easy answer, because I can't prescribe to you what your home needs necessarily, but I know what your home needs is for you to think about what it needs, and to really let yourself be in some kind of communication with your home around what you need from it and what it needs from you. I would say in general, most people could use a decluttering, or some more intentional ways of having clutter. My wife and I, she's definitely more of a maximalist than I am. We have a lot of clutter, but it is intentionally displayed and put throughout our home. We have a woman that comes and cleans, and I'm always just laughing because I'm like, I don't even think Paloma can like clean any of the actual surfaces in our home, because they're all so covered in like crystals and animal figurines and like magical implements. But I think it's really just important, like I said, to just think about what do you want to feel like when you come home. In my book, this is a fun exercise that I would encourage people to do if you really don't feel like you have any kind of idea what you want your space to feel like. You can look at what is going on in your fourth house in your astrology chart. And then I gave some suggestions based on each sign, planet. I have to tell you, I had some fun last night, so I'm a little slow on the uptake today. But and then if you don't have anything in your fourth house, just to go by your moon sign. So depending on which sign system you use, I have a Pisces moon in my fourth house, which is like pretty much, your fourth house is all about home, and it's like kind of corresponds with Cancer, so it's about home and kind of mothering in a way, like how you take care of yourself. But so for me, like, I really need my home to be an oasis. Like, I really need my home to be a space that I can come and I can like let my little Pisces moon. I always kind of like describe having a Pisces moon as like kind of having like a really dreamy open wound all the time, So I really need a space where I can just like be wrapped in softness and kind of, let that open wound like feel okay, because we definitely have to cover that up to be out in the world, if you know what I mean, so I need to be able to like release a little bit when I'm at home. But somebody with like an Aries moon, or with a lot with different stuff going on in their fourth house, like they might need a big backyard so they can run around or kick a soccer ball or whatever. And so it's really going to be so different. The thing that I can prescribe is just that you spend some time thinking about it. And then it's not just about like, well, what can I get on sale at Home Goods to put in my space, or like what's going on HGTV, like, because I mean, watching HGTV is like fun and everything, but like me and like pretty much everybody I know, we're not really in a position to be like, we're going to just knock out walls and put in an all marble kitchen or like whatever it is. Right. So that doesn't really help us either. It really just puts us in this place of like aspiration culture, which I have huge issues with, which is like funny because I'm in this space. And this is why House Witch became what it is, as opposed to it being about decor and design solely, because really that world is so steeped in aspirational culture. And my wife asked me the other day, she was like, do you think House Witch is like aspirational? And I was like, I hope not, honestly, because I think like the thing about aspirational culture is it makes people feel less than, it makes them feel like they're lacking. And so while I want people obviously to think our aesthetics are beautiful and that like, we have it all together in some way, or that like my house is this like example, because that does feel important. If you're going to have a brand that's like based on home, that like my home would be a good example. But at the same time, like, I don't want anybody to feel a shred of like, that they're not good enough, or that they don't measure up in some way because they don't have maybe the same kind of resources that I have, or that they put their resources in other places. So it's definitely like hard to try to be in the like interiors world with that kind of a view. But so like I said, it's not, I don't think it's about buying things. I don't think it's about trends. I don't even necessarily think it's like about casting like lots of spells or something. I think it's really just about building up an intuition about your space and just being like having your energy in movement enough that you can pick up on like what you need or what your home needs. From you, that like reciprocal relationship.
And you I'm paraphrasing here, but you said earlier that witchcraft is sort of like the religion of the othered. So how do you have any advice for magical ways of making our houses not just beautiful and welcoming and comfortable, but safe?
Definitely. I mean, again, you can ground your whole house. Like you can do that grounding meditation, like not just in your home, but you can like ground your home. Like you can imagine that same kind of like green core going from like your floor, for instance, to the center of the earth. We really like to, we just came out with our new line of cleaning products. And so the glass cleaner, it's called Gaze, and it has yarrow in it for protection. And I think obsidian. But also we give some like longer rituals on the website. And one of them is to, when you're like wiping your glass or your windows, to wipe it in the pattern of a daisy wheel, which is based on old counter magic, from around New England. Daisy wheels, they would carve them, into the church walls or into their homes as a protective talisman. And so we were like, well, wouldn't it be really cool to just like build that into, cleaning your windows or your mirrors or whatever. So you can get, really granular and like do practices like that. Our floor wash, like same thing. We have a ritual where you mop your floor counterclockwise as an abundance practice. So you can get really granular and like do things like that. And I encourage you to go on countermagic.com and you can see all of our rituals that we came up with for the products. But again,
you have a separate website for these.
Yeah, it's a whole other little sister business. Yeah, Counter Magic, CK on Magic.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes for everybody who's listening.
Yay! Yeah, so like I said, if you want to get witchy and use tools and products and stuff like that, I get it. They smell amazing. We formulated them specifically, to be what people like me want, which is like really good smelling stuff that's going to like multitask. It's going to like clean your windows and protect your space. But it's also, for me, like it's a visualization. When I leave my house every single day, I like kind of look at it from my front door and I close my eyes for just a second and I imagine a glowing orb of protection around it. And I say, okay, you're protected. I'll see you later. I definitely say hello and goodbye to my house every time I come and go. I think something that I've really realized over the last couple of years is just how much of an animist I am. And I think like really how much of animist a lot of people are. I think we all kind of like have these urges to like talk to our rocks and our homes and our, we obviously it's okay to talk to your pets. We've like all decided it's like totally okay to like talk to your pet like a Looney Tune. But, then when I tell people that I like greet my home, they're like, really? I'm like, why is that weird? Like my home is just as a big part of my family as like my pets. I mean, we're all in it. But again, like this is what we have to unlearn, right? Because I think like, just think about like when you were a kid, you wouldn't have even thought twice about that, and then we all just like grow up and have to like get jobs and not be weirdos anymore. And I'm just like, no, not for me.
And I mean, for me, you're making me think about this notion of our front door as a portal, totally. And that whatever energy we are bringing through the portal. And if we see our front door, again, whether you own or rent, the energy belongs to you solely. So if you just think of that front door as a portal, as a place where you're literally, I mean, there's no magic here. You're going from outside to inside. But if we can think of it also metaphorically, like don't bring those toxic energies, leave them outside. Imagine yourself stepping through a portal when you come through your door.
Absolutely. Exactly. And if there are any tools that you can use to like help you do that, great. Again, like we do have a clearing spray, but any spray or any product that, maybe right when you come in, you spray something over your head and you can kind of feel that, you're clearing your energy a little bit before you go in, or, kind of build into the energetic hygiene of your home. Like, look, I'm going to come in here with some like wacky energy sometimes because it's wild out there. And I need you to be able to like, what do you need to be able to like help absorb that? We fill our home with a lot of plants. We actually live in a building that's, just about 200 years old. It was the first, this is another cool thing to do, is find out a little bit about the history of your home if you can, because we did actually buy our home a couple of years ago, and which we feel very privileged and lucky about. But my wife was like very nervous about it, like the night before we were going to sign the papers, obviously. And then we found out that the building itself was built as the first theater in Salem, and the Puritans were not happy about it. They did not want a theater, but they built it. And get this is so wild. The first play that was put on in this theater was written by an out lesbian in the late 1700s. And it's like a gender satire. It's called like, wives as they were, maids as they are, wives as they were, and maids as they are, something like that. And like what? It was put on in 1828. Like I had no idea that there could be like out queer folks in like between 1790 and like 1828, just like writing plays, and people were just like performing them. I mean, there's such an erasure of that history. And of course, Melissa and I would find the building in Salem where like they were like fighting Puritans to put on queer plays, but like once we found that out, like Melissa was like, okay, let's go sign those papers. Like this is obviously meant to be, but consequently, like it has all these like columns, it has all this like weird kind of colonialist architecture, and like we love it, but it does have that vibe to it. So we've started letting all our viney plants grow up the columns, like reclaiming the kind of patriarchal vibes with lush greenery. I love the like energy of like when the plants take back over, when we're all gone from the planet and the plants take back over. That's kind of like an aesthetic that we're trying to cultivate in my home. And I feel like that's it's just like asking the center of the earth to kind of take your troubles. Doing your grounding meditation is like having living things like plants and obviously animals and stuff like that, but that's another way of just bringing really supportive energies into your home. And if you're like a black thumb, don't go out and get like a million houseplants so that you don't have to do any other energetic hygiene or whatever. But I'm just saying, like, if you are, I just think of that as one of the ways for us that we cultivate supportive energy in our home.
Perfect. Ursula has a question for you. Ursula.
Great.
Hi. So first, I wanted to say that I love your earrings.
Oh, thank you. I'll put the brand in the chat.
Yeah, can you describe them for listeners who can't see them real quick, Erica?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're I think called portal earrings. So very on brand. Yeah, they're kind of like the shape of what I imagine a portal is, which is like an arch. And then one has a sun with steps and one has a moon with like a doorway, and they're by While Odin Sleeps, who is an incredible, and they're brass and black. And I have another pair that's kind of similar, but their house, it's like a haunted house, a different haunted house on each ear. And obviously being the house witch, I loved that they made those too. But anyways, okay. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up, Ursula. I have been a little bit mesmerized by them, but I never thought to ask. Now I know what I'm getting for my birthday. Ursula.
Going back to being a small business owner, I worked in several small businesses, and I noticed that the owners always used to work overtime, work on weekends, because they were like self-employed, so they worked all the time. How do you deal with that? I think you have a strategy for that, I guess.
That's such a great question, and yeah, I'm really glad you asked that, because there is this, like, it's all this kind of like grind and like hustle culture, right? And I remember when like I first opened the business, like seeing a meme that was like, small business owners or entrepreneurs work 80 hours a week so that they don't have to work 40 hours a week, for someone else. And so I work all the time. I mean, there's the boundary between like what is Erica and what is House Witch is like pretty thin sometimes. And so it's sort of like anything that I'm interested in myself is going to factor into the business somehow. I was just having a conversation with my bookkeeper about like vacations, like, well, which ones can I like say are business trips? And I'm like, well, kind of all of them, because I'm like always talking about this stuff with everyone. But so I'm always working, and that's okay because I love my business, but I have very firm boundaries around certain things. So I really don't work past 6 at night. The shop closes at 6. And if I'm still working at 6, I stop. I don't look at emails. I take 2 days off a week, Sunday and Monday, which is a holdover from working in hair salons where most of them are closed on Sundays and Mondays, or like kind of on a skeleton crew. And so that worked for my life. So I still take Sundays and Mondays as my day off, and I do not check email at all on those days. And those are non-negotiables. So it's like, and sometimes, definitely talk to me in October and I'll be like, yeah, right, work-life balance does not exist. But you really have to put these structures in place and boundaries in place. And again, like goes for whether you're a small business owner or anything else, determining what your boundaries are around work is really important, and then sticking to them. And, we were talking about learning how not to do things, right? Well, so, my mother struggles with mental illness, and I watched her my whole life, kind of work too much and not take enough rest and not take enough time for self-care. And it had a hugely detrimental effect on her life and my whole family's life. And so in a lot of ways, I learned that really important lesson out of that, which is just that, I am a person that needs downtime. I am a person that needs rest. I am a person that needs to not check my email and not get that blood pressure spike that you get when you check your email a couple of days a week, or I'm going to be useless the rest of the time. And so I definitely think it's about figuring out like how much time and space you need to carve out for yourself where you're not going super hard so that you can grind as hard as you have to when you have to. But I also just want to invite everyone to like make some space for ease in your life, because I think another one of these things that we're steeped in is that everything that's right, you have to put a bunch of effort into, and it has to be hard and a fight and all this kind of stuff. And, what I'm here to say is for me, starting the business was I was walking against the wind for years, and then I just turned around, and everything has actually felt extremely easeful. Notice I'm not saying easy, but I'm saying easeful, because even if it is hard, even if I am working harder than maybe I want to be, or I'm tired and I still have to do things, at the end of the day, I know that I'm still in this incredible flow, because what I am doing is so aligned with my values and my spirituality and just what I kind of feel like is my destiny, that I don't have to hustle super hard for that. Does that make sense? But I just think there is such a culture around small business ownership around you're the first one there in the morning and you're the last one to leave, and and energetically, that's true, right? Energetically, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, it's 8:30, which means there's an hour and a half until people are going to be at the shop, but Paige will probably be there because she likes to come in early. So Paige will get there in a half an hour. And then again, the same thing at night, right? But I'm not actually I'm not doing work all day. It's just in my consciousness because I own the business. But rest is really important. And again, just ease, just let it come. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Yes, it does. I worked in different types of businesses. I worked in law firms, and there was a lot of the clients were writing emails around the clock, and my bosses were checking them on their phone on the go, and it messed them up really.
I have to respond to that, because I was like that when I first opened the store. I mean, I came out of a culture of that, just working for other people. And then when I first opened the store, I was doing that. And I realized that when you check your email less, you send less emails, people send less emails to you. It's like you're slowing down the conversation, and I'm sure in a law office, there's probably a lot more urgency, but with what I do,
people think it's urgent.
Right. And that's the thing is I think we are all in such a tizzy, and everyone is thinking that we're all, you have to respond. And I'm here to just say, like, you don't, and a good thing that I did in the beginning that I don't have to do anymore, but I do see a lot of my like kind of compatriots doing, is having like an autoresponder that just says like, thank you for reaching out to me. Like, I'm on a different pace than everybody else. So I'm going to get back to you in 4 to 5 days. And, if it is urgent, then email this person. But otherwise, luckily, like I did that for a couple of years, and I just feel like kind of people got used to my pace, and I don't, worry about it too much anymore. But it's like, if you're checking the email at 7 and then you respond to it, then they're going to respond to it, and you're going to check your email at 8 and you're going to respond to that. And it's just a vicious cycle. Whereas if you just say, I'm not opening my email from 6 p.m. until 10 a.m. the next morning. Again, in my world, nothing super urgent is going to happen overnight that I would need to freak out and respond to. So, but again, it's about unsteeping, we have so much messaging telling us, that you have to be super, tapped in at all times. And your nervous system, it's unsustainable. It was completely unsustainable for my nervous system, because my blood pressure spikes anytime I see a work-related email, unless it's from lovely people, which a lot of times it is. But, and I just can't, we got too much going on right now that our nervous systems are having to deal with to like add more. When, what I'm doing is like selling magic and candles and like, just hopefully things that are supportive to people. It's like, what am I going to like, compromise my own mental health? That goes against the entire ethos of my business. So, but again, I am a rarity. Even my own therapist emailed me on Sunday, and then I got a follow-up on Tuesday that was like, I emailed you days ago about something, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't look at my emails on Sundays. And like,
period.
But even my own therapist was like, wow, good for you. And I was like, I mean, it's a Sunday. I mean, like, I feel like there's like any day that like most people could get behind that you like don't work. It's like Sunday. So I was like so shocked that this like mental health professional was like shocked that I didn't answer an email from a Sunday. But I was like, I don't answer emails on Sundays or Mondays. And she was like, wow, good for you. I was like,
but I was trying to get a hold of you. That's great for your mental health and all, but I had a question.
No, really, it was so funny. I was like, I hope, but again, like, it was just like, I was a little miffed about it, but I just like came at it from my center, and I just gave her the information. I didn't have to put any judgment on it. All I said was like, I just don't open emails on Sundays or Mondays. So that's why you haven't heard from me. And she definitely, So anyways, just kind of a funny story, but in that, it's up to us. If I can't even get the message from my therapist, like, hey, take it easy on a Sunday or a Monday, it truly is just up to us to create those boundaries and then stick to them. And it's so hard, but I have a lot of practice growing up with how I grew up, I guess, sticking to boundaries, but it's really hard. And I think it's really hard when it comes into stuff around like work and supporting yourself and like root chakra related things, because I think all of our senses of safety and security are like shattered right now.
Yeah.
But thank you for that. That was an amazing question, and probably something that, I get questions about all the time and talk to my small business peers about all the time. And so a lot of people are wrestling with those types of questions. And I feel fortunate that I found kind of my speed in all of this, because it's hard to even just do that.
Yeah. But you really,
thank you.
You've really underscored that it is up to us to set those boundaries. Despite what we have been taught about productivity and growth, we need to unlearn and set those boundaries. The snake's going to keep eating its own tail, but it doesn't have to, do a full cycle every day. We can slow down, take little bites of our own snake tail at a time.
Yeah, definitely. Spread out the feast, like let it last you all season or something like that. Yeah.
So at the risk of sounding capitalistic, how can our listeners buy your book, buy your wares, give you their hard-earned money that they've sweated their asses off for? How can they find you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, you can go to housewitchstore.com, and that is where obviously we have all of our merchandise and access to our virtual events. But there's also our community page, which is something I am so super proud of because it is all free content. Spells, suggestions, tarot spreads, historical information about different Sabbats. Every once in a while, I jump in with like a DIY project or like a remodel related project, but it is so much great information for free. And it's like me and my staff and my community that write the articles. And so, again, here's me like tempering, like, yes, there's a shop, but there's also like this amazing free resource. And you can buy my book, House Magic, on my website. That'd be awesome if you did. But you can also buy it like through Barnes & Noble and all those other places.
Request it from your public library so they buy 4 copies.
No, it's so great when people send pictures of it in their libraries to me all the time, and it's like so heartwarming, and I love it. And then the new cleaning products are called Counter Magic. Ritual cleaning products, and we're very proud of them, and they are very sustainable and eco-friendly and magical. And on Instagram, the shop is at Housewitch, and then I have a personal account that's Housewitch at Home, which I don't do a ton on, but if you are interested a little bit more in the behind the scenes of like my personal life and stuff about just home decorating and stuff like that, then Housewitch at Home.
Yeah. And that's House, Haus, for those of you who are listening and can't wait to get in on that. And magic always with a K, right? Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. It's been amazing talking to you, and so inspirational that we can do it, that there are small business owners who don't just want to grind us to bone dust, who, people who are bosses who are, doing boss the right way. And it's really uplifting to hear you talk about how that is possible. Everyone, there is hope. There are business owners out there like Erica who are really balancing mutual benefit with, running a business that works. So again, thank you so much. It was an honor. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, and for all the incredible things that y'all do with Missing Witches. I mean, we all, at the shop witches wanted me to say, hi, and, we're not worthy. And, this big love from Salem. Oh, and please tell every single witch in Salem that you meet that you are worthy. Yes. I never want to hear we're not worthy again. In a Wayne's world.
In a Wayne's world way.
But we are also worthy, and we are worthy of being treated well by our employers. We are worthy of having houses and homes that feel safe. We are worthy of eating food that we buy with the money that we are paid fairly for the jobs that we do. We are all
chills
worthy
right now.
We are all chills. Worthy. Yeah.
Blessed be.
Blessed fucking be. Yeah.
You must be a witch.
The Missing Witches fundraiser for Native women's shelters is now complete. Together, our coven returned over $4,000 to our local Indigenous communities. If you love the Missing Witches Project, consider joining us on Patreon at patreon.com/missingwitches.